There's no logical reason, it's just arbitrary fan service. The reason why the arbitrariness of this is so bad is because it reinforces that the narrative doesn't need to build up to anything. You can just irrationally shoehorn in any random thing whenever you want. When you truly analyze the lineup, you only get more and more nonsense. Not only are there 3 Jaw Titans, which proves Isayama's priorities were fan service centric, there isn't any Warhammer Titan. The Warhammer Titan would be a Titan most motivated to stop the rumbling, but she is just absent because the audience didn't know her for more than a volume. This also further hammers home how the Attack Titan was retconned. The whole resist the king and move forward toward freedom thing, yeah, that's just out of the window. For this one, I'll just play a clip from another video of mine. It just shows how this plot hole is nothing new and is very indefensible. Again, Isayama just blatantly forgot how to write, and yeah. But anyway, let's not waste any more time. Time working different in paths. In chapters 120 to 123, we see how paths is this weird time purgatory thing where a lot of things can happen virtually instantaneously. In chapter 135 and on, Armin is captured in paths and time continuously works. Instead of having any instant time stuff, he emphasizes that his friends are fighting and time is moving. One can argue, hey, maybe it's because Ymir is no longer in paths, but that isn't ever explained and it's just cheap, baseless ad hogging. But yeah, there's like no excuses for this, however. Like paths, like Armin, like paths is working simultaneously. This is also in my video, but I will elaborate on this further. Chapter 139 has Eren say that the Founder's powers has made it where he's living in the past, present, and future. People like to rat and say it's a combination with the Attack Titan, but that's not what's happening here. Not only can the Founder give you the Attack Titan's power, Ymir herself is the Founder, which is 4D. Even more, the Attack Titan can only see memories of future inheritors, which wouldn't exactly make you 4D and make you aware of like the past and like 100 million years ago. That's why she sent Eren the message as well. Ymir, who is 4D and the Founding Titan, also sent Eren a message 2,000 years ago. So we understand the Founding Titan gives you 4D time perception, whatever. The problem is that nobody knew this. When Eren used the Founding Titan's powers in chapter 50, he didn't know this or even feel it. When Zeke used the ability in chapter 120, there was also nothing to indicate that. Frida also didn't know about this ability, which is the most concerning. We see her use the Founder's powers all the time, like how she fought Grisha and manipulated Storia's memories. The fact that the 4D powers weren't bestowed upon her and she was actively shocked when Grisha said he can see the future is fucking incredible. If the Founder was also 4D, she would have saw herself see the Attack Titan's ability and wouldn't have a reaction in disbelief. Think about it, guys. Grisha says the Attack Titan is capable of knowing the future, and the woman looks fucking bewildered. She then stumbles over her own words and looks puzzled. Zeke, who is literally using the Founder's powers in that fucking moment, also looks shocked by its development. The Founder was never 4D, Isayama just retconned it to be this way. This talking point is one of the most discussed and widely hated and defended points within the ending, for good reason as well. First, we're going to break down why from a writing perspective this was handled like trash, and then from an in-story meta sense how it was retconned in. I've partially discussed it with Mikasa's section, but you need to know the writing on a conceptual level in this presentation are impossible to swallow. It's like needing to take medicine in order to function for day-to-day life, but the pill you need to take is literally the size of a Rubik's Cube. What do I mean? In chapter 122, went out of its way to showcase how King Fritz was a deplorable, evil, greedy bastard. Ymir was literally enslaved, literally chased down to be killed, forced to have his children, forced to become a baby making machine, forced to become a weapon of war, and King Fritz actively mocked her sacrifice and reaffirmed that she was a slave and will always be one. After hearing this, she chooses to die. Go back to chapter 40. What does the Founder, freckled Ymir tell Astoria? So you're going to kill yourself. The ultimate act of submission. Is that how much you want to please the people who treated you like a nuisance? We have Ymir telling Astoria, who was an explicit parallel to the Founder, that she should live in rebellion and change her fate that was not assigned from birth. What does King Fritz say? She was born as his slave. This connection is made to hammer home how Ymir Fritz wanted to die as she hated her life and had no escape, very similar to Astoria. She did not have a strong enough will to change her fate. This is all in relation to her wanting freedom. She did not want to be a slave. Even in chapter 134, we see she frees the pigs. 135. She wanted to vicariously experience freedom because she lacked it. Go to chapter 98. Father Jaeger says it was a lack of freedom he gave Grisha that pushed him to go beyond the walls. There are a large amount of ideas already present within the manga to affirm that Ymir Fritz wanted physical freedom and not to be a slave. Instead, 139 tells us she wanted freedom from love. Not only is that incongruent with all the previous ideas I literally just explained, but this was not built up at all. There's no foreshadowing toward this reveal, nor is there any real development, which is naturally more important. So basically, it comes out of literally thin air, then is made to be the entire point of the story. Even more, it was shoehorned into the final chapter along with 6 other huge reveals under the same magnitude. We learned Mikasa solved the conflict, Ymir was in love, Erinku's own mom, like blase, this is what I mean by the pill being a literal fucking Rubik's Cube. It is simply overloading the audience with so much story-defining information, which does not have any time to breathe by itself at all. It's literally gish galloping in a literary sense. Because the pill is so hard to swallow, here's footage of me completing a Rubik's Cube as I explain the second half. The retcon here is pretty obvious. Ymir is depicted as a literal slave time and time again, even when we get a formal introduction. Having the freedom from love tagline reduces the agency of what a slave is supposed to mean. As well, it destroys an entire aspect of the story. Ymir is not a mental slave to her idea of lust or love or whatever. She's a literal slave and was enslaved simply because imperialism that she was forced to propagate. If she did this because she hated her life of love instead of any other primary motivation, it does not make her sympathetic. It makes her look retarded. When Armin rationalizes that Ymir wanted to destroy the world as well, this makes zero sense. This means she wanted to destroy the world to get over her lover. What the fuck? Like, deadass, what motivation is that? The retcon is even more explicit when you go back into the path chapters. If she was in love with the king and followed him out of love, then she would never have sent the message to Eren. More specifically, she would have listened to Zeke instead of Eren, who is made to mirror the original king and has royal blood as well. So, by denying royal blood, which is by the king, she denied the king herself. She decided to no longer be subservient and abandon this quote-unquote love. This isn't even where it stops though. If she really did love him, then she would not have tried to escape through death. That action was already contextualized with literal freedom, and trying to spin another angle onto it is trivializing the context to promote something else that isn't good. But that's exactly what happens though. Now that scene is meant to be escape from her agony of love. Reading those panels and having to conclude with that as a message sounds beyond retarded. Remember guys, she propagated the curse upon humanity and stayed in task for 2,000 years, all for some dick. Saying this is Stockholm Syndrome does not make the writing better. Like saying it's an absurdist fantasy in some random incoherent light novel bullshit does not make the writing better. Good concepts don't change terrible writing. However, we're still going to prove how it's not Stockholm Syndrome. We are never at all shown any inkling of mental freedom. That is why Ymir doesn't talk at all, because she obviously wasn't looking to be mentally free in chapters 122 to 135. Stockholm Syndrome obviously wasn't in the cards. Even more than that, a person is supposed to trick themselves and rationalize their abuser's behavior in order to get like this. Ymir's first introduction to King Fritz is her killing her parents, burning down her home, and cutting off her tongue. There is no fucking way anyone in the human history of mankind ever can rationalize such a thing. Real life Stockholm Syndrome happens over time. If Ymir and King Fritz were in real life, this would mean their first date would end with Ymir being verbally and physically abused. Nobody meets someone, gets abused, and says, "This is exactly what I want." In the final plot hole, which is personally the worst plot hole, this is what makes AOT so rotten. In chapter 139, Eren tells Armin that he moved Dina away from Bertold and forced her to eat his mom. People harp on this aspect because the Dina thing is naturally retarded, but there are new and more egregious angles to consider. Eren is admitting that he played God with the story. He is saying that Bertold would have died if he did not intervene. Please recognize what this means, however. This means Eren was playing a video editor and cutting and adding things to the AOT timeline, so it all works out. Understand, this retroactively ruins the entire story. This means no character could have ever died beforehand. If a character was in any serious danger, then Eren will manipulate the situation so they were not, and they would go out and carry their purpose. Remember when Hans almost got blown up? Eren actually mind controlled random fodder to save her and sacrifice himself. AOT firmly established itself as a tragic, depressing narrative. Mindless Titans and Trust pose a big threat, and if not for Eren, they could have all died. The entire narrative and tone of massive loss of life and humanity's comeback is immediately squandered. Paradis race literally has God on their side, and if you're part of the main cast, then you are never actually going to die. Remember when that one woman was gonna shoot John, but then Armin shot her instead? I think Eren just mind controlled the woman to hesitate or not shoot so Armin could get the shot off. There's no limits to what he does. If you were a Flock or Historian or Hans, then you are never in any real danger in these arcs. Eren is readily admitting he would forcefully change events in order to make everything happen the exact way it was. So whenever I read Clash of the Titans or reread Shinganshina and get all tense because of these battles and stakes, I immediately remember, wait, Eren in 139 is gonna make it to where all the main characters survive until the end. This is just a terrible thing to include in your story. Character actions don't matter, decisions don't matter, and they're all drones being controlled by Fate and Ymir. I've literally got a comment on a previous video saying that Karl Fritz built the walls and Eren's father was killed because Eren manipulated them. Genuinely. How could anyone call that a good story? He didn't even realize how this is textbook bad writing. It is honestly astonishing and an underlying detail for why people truly despise AOT and the ending. So we just dive deep as hell into the problems the ending has. Even if we take away half of these problems, that is still 20 different problems / plot holes. This is all reduced to the final volumes of the series as well. I didn't talk about any of the plot holes in the pre-time skip at all. But there are still a substantial amount of problems that I didn't even bring up, such as Mikasa flying into the mouth as an example. It is logically inconsistent with what we're presented, but I choose to ignore it and just include it in conjunction with the nonsense of Mikasa and Ymir. To sum it up, there are way too many fucking problems this ending has. Either conceptually, literally, thematically, the writing here is just abhorrent. It's shite, mate. Despite the ridiculous preponderance of evidence I just gave you about the writing and the ending being terrible, there's still a lot more to talk about. Many people hear these flaws and rationalize and headcanon all types of stuff to still make the narrative work. Even though I tried my best during this section to eliminate any counter arguments to these plot holes and objective narrative flaws, there are certain individuals who will ignore all these to prop up their own narrative. On some Aizen shit, it is my job to dispel these fake narratives. We will do a hands-on approach on many AOT videos that try to say the writing is good and or makes sense. This is a long time coming, to be honest, because I truly do hate some of these folks. This section may be extraordinarily long, so go to the description for more specific chapters. I am a lover of video essays. For the better part of 3 years, I've spent a lot of my time just rewatching video essays and trying to find new ones. My favorite video essays when I wrote this are How Toy Story 4 Destroyed Everything and The Most Important Dynamic in Bleach. My favorites change a lot because right now those are not my favorite anymore, but basically know that I know what a good video essay is. Today we will dive into multiple video essays and explain why they are wrong. It is important to note that I'm not suggesting an alternative to what these guys present. Similar to the prologue, I'm simply debunking these claims and points related to these videos. It's like me saying X doesn't make sense without presenting Y as an alternative in order for it to make sense. This is all to fuel my underlying thesis that I haven't really explicitly stated because I don't need to, that AOT doesn't have a theme or set of principles or message for the story. The author arbitrarily wrote shit in a story that is completely incongruent with what was previously inside that story. In order to not make this script and video 50 times longer, I will only limit myself to 5 videos. Lord knows I will make this shit longer than Jason Love, but let's show some restraint this time around. The videos I will get into for personal and business reasons are Understanding Eren Yeager by Sage's Reign, I Spent a Year Analyzing Eren and Here's What I Found by Ace D, and finally, This Spent a Year Analyzing Eren and Here's What I Found by Ace D, and finally, This Video Will Change How You See Eren by Invaders. Basically, we will break down these videos and debunk all sorts of erroneous claims these boys make. I'm not hating just to hate, however. I genuinely think these videos propagate a bad narrative by ironically ignoring the narrative. As a word before we start, Isayama doesn't even know what he wrote. Isayama has said in multiple different interviews that the story has gotten away from him at multiple points where he could not successfully write. He has also stated he had no way to make Armin talk his way out of the parody's conflict. Even more, he contradicts himself all the time with his views on Mikasa and whether or not the ending has been planned since day one. The fact that the writer himself can act like an imbecile online out of his own volition proves that the story isn't exactly coherent. Even more proof is the fact that Isayama lampshaded a lot of the problems with the ending within the AOT School cast movie endings. Basically, do not blame me because the author does not know how to write. It's like, if I slept with your girl, don't get mad at me because the bitch was choosing. Be mad at her